Hello my friends and welcome. Let's go straight away to the good news. We have the confirmation that Ukraine definitely repelled Russian forces from Ivanivka. Roughly 26 of the Russian soldiers were imprisoned. I really like to see the blue colors on the map updates. So before it was the Russian infiltration attempt to Ivanivka, at first successful, but later on something went wrong. Ukraine actually got the higher ground over here, those are the hills. Using this advantage, Ukraine started to strike Russian positions, later on going with infantry forces, jamming Russian soldiers between Ukrainian forces and Vovcha River. A fantastic update we have here because, roughly 1 month ago Russia sent enormous amount of the forces to this particular direction towards Komar. Here they want to advance from several of the directions. Their goal is to cross the Vovcha River, but even in Novopavlivka they failed with this mission. Here they went even with armored vehicles, landed forces, but it was a big trap. It became the big trap, this settlement for Russians, so this operation completely failed for them. And the other update is coming from Mirnograd and Pokrovsk direction. There Russia went ahead from Promin with main forces. It was yesterday and it is today. You can see just a light advancement. Ukraine somehow still holds there in Mirnograd. As for the new losses in this region, let me check the other map. I usually check out Mayakovsk Analytic. He confirms the Russian army movement towards Mirnograd itself from Promen. Yes, they took this part of the field and some of the private households there. I already spoke about this tank that Russia lost, and this is the Grad system. But there is something new. One more vehicle near Boykivka. Maybe two of the vehicles. Yeah, MTLB and tank hit by FPV, so two of the vehicles. Where's the video itself? Let's check out. Okay, so there is the Russian tank, definitely. This is the Russian tank that was hit by FPV drone and MTLB, definitely, as they say. The tank went absolutely kaboomed. The 33rd Separate Mechanized Brigade performed this mission. They're very capable, yeah. They operate in the Brapila direction already for a very long time. They also hit the mortar here and some of the antennas. Yeah, Russians put those antennas to operate their drones precisely. What can I say? Nice job done by this brigade. It's awesome. For this video, I cannot show it to you. Well, here Russians were kaputted by drones and they flatlined themselves because sometimes they do it. For whatever reason, maybe they're just tired. So I say just positive news, for the last 24 hours for Ukraine. Well, here, yes, it's understandable that Russia gained some of the ground, but still it is not critical for defense of Mirnograd and Pokrovsk. And still, here is the line, those railways, and Russians cannot cross those with the main armed forces. Sometimes they cross, but they usually again flatlined by Ukrainian drone operators, as I showed you yesterday in one of the videos. Also good news that there are no any news from Hulaypole. Russian army still stays at the present position. The last night was more or less calm here. Russians also didn't use aviation gliding bombs, which is quite strange. Instead, they used those in Andriivka. Guys, I'm monitoring the situation on the front lines precisely, so I may say that for the last week, the offensive pace of the Russian army slowed down gradually. I'm not saying that they're bogged down completely, no, they still get some of the ground, but in Zaporizhia they're facing now the main defense line of Ukraine, and in Pokrovsk, the Brapila direction, well, Russian army is after all not that successful as it is said by the Russian military command or the Russian military bloggers. Still, there is the way out and way in for Ukraine. Yes, it's kind of risky for Ukraine to operate from and to Mirnograd pocket, and I already showed you how Ukrainian vehicles are just stockpiled out there. They've been hit by the drones, wrecked, but still it's not a catastrophic situation for Ukrainian armed forces. And many experts promised that Mirnograd would be 100% encircled. Maybe 3 weeks ago they said about the full encirclement of Mirnograd. I was never saying like that. I say that situation is very difficult and there is operational encirclement. It is out there still because Russia launches drones and artillery fire on a very specific spot, this bottleneck, yes, on the way in again and the way out. Well, still I hope that Ukraine will be able to withdraw the forces very soon from Mirnograd. It is important to save the lives of our soldiers because they're needed to fight, continue to fight for Ukraine. Hopefully there will be a rotation also because those guys are being in a very, very difficult situation for extensive period of time, so they require at least some of the vacation. Oh, Ukraine started to use the new strategy on the front lines. It is digging down a few of the trenches, forcing Russians to go into a very small ways. For example, like over here, there is a single road and lots of the trenches around. Ukraine is forcing Russians to go only one way and concentrates enough forces to demolish Russian convoys and so on. And not just anti-tank trenches and the Dragon Ts are being used, there is also a reservoir against infantry, so for Russians it's no-go actually. They're concentrated into the small, very small bottleneck. Also, if they penetrate Ukrainian defense, they continue to use the same road again and again and again, and Ukraine strikes them constantly. It's very easy to target those supplies in this case. Oh, nice. It's the first recorded interception of the Russian jet Shahid drone with the help of the standard drone interceptor. Awesome. So it works. Ukraine definitely knows how to shut down Russian drones. Well, this jet Shahid flies several times faster than the standard with a piston engine. But the FPV drone interceptors also may fly very fast. I guess to the other news, oh my god, it seems like Russian economy, which is very dependent on oil, is going to suffer the next year 100%. Russia's Rosneft reports 70% fall in 9 months net income. Rosneft is the biggest oil company in Russia after Lukoil. By the way, recently it was sanctioned by United States of America. Putin was so surprised. Around 3 days ago he spoke to the press of Russia and he said that definitely he was surprised with this move of Donald Trump, but he hopes that those sanctions soon will be lifted. And maybe Vitkov is going to Moscow for that sort of the purpose. To propel the Russian interests in front of Donald Trump, he would say that negotiations went very, very well and it's time to lift the sanctions from Russia and the Russian oil. That will be the main goal for Putin to tell for Vitkov. Not the negotiations themselves, but Russia just needs some money to continue the war. For the next year, for sure, they'll have enough money. We already understand it because Russia continue to receive, after all, some of the income selling oil, and also they sell their gold. Interesting, the Wall Street Journal comes out with this article saying that Russia gains the upper hand in the drone battle once Ukraine's forte. Moscow's military has gotten better in using the war's deadliest weapon, small cheap drones. Well, actually it's not fully correct because still in major sphere Ukraine has advantage in the drone usage. We have more of the battalions physically, more of the groups of army who use drones. In Russia mainly it is Rubicon, which is very capable, and Russia sends this unit to the most difficult directions. For now they operate in Pokrovsk. Before they were working, I guess, in Sumy region because there Russia tried to get to the Sumy city itself. But Ukraine is also working on even Rubicon drone positions. There were some of the ambushments of those in Pokrovsk itself and also in Dobropilya. So Russia still is kind of limited with the drone production. They're still using some of the older versions of the drones, but they have advantage. For example, if we speak about the fiber optic control drones, Russia has way more of those units compared to Ukraine. Ukraine still cannot chase the fiber optic control drone production, unfortunately. Also, still Russia has advantage in Lancet drones. Ukraine has similar kind of the drones, but they fly for the lower range and they're smaller than Lancets. For example, Ukraine has identical drone to Lancet, but the range of it is 2 times shorter. So after all, there is nothing better than Lancet if we speak about the drones with a range up to 80 kilometers, something like that. But usually Russians operate with a range of 50 kilometers. But with the current fiber optic controlled drones, Russians also may launch those for 50 kilometers. I mean, standard FPV may fly even that long, which is a new threat of this war. However, I may agree partially with this article that Russia is developing fast, and the next year they'll have probably the upper hand even in standard FPV drones usage, because Rubicon, it is also expanding. They work directly with China, they receive the spare parts. For them, it is way easier compared to Ukraine with mostly everything. Russians also start to use massively the mother drones that carry standard FPV drones for the longer range. You can see it over here. Different constructions. They are being spotted by Ukrainian interceptor drones and being hit. This Russian drone carries 2 of the standard FPV drones. Those mother drones are used also to retransmit the signal, sometimes even reinforcing it. Here is probably the box responsible for that, to make the strikes precise. That's the new era in usage of the FPV drones in combination with different types of the other drones. You also might do, by the way, some of the surveillance operation, coordination drones, artillery, everything. Yulian Rybka says that we have nothing to protect us against massive Russian drone attacks. The Kremlin is building kamikaze drone motherships that before their own attack in turn serve as repeaters for FPV kamikaze drones, and the range is 50 kilometers behind the front. We're so yeah, it's like that. Unfortunately, Europe, you need this is a very simple actually technology. If you look at this from perspective, yes, it's very simple, but it's on a very large scale. All of the drone production, Europe might have some fancy technologies, some very good warfare, but not massively in production. Drone systems should be improved and produced massively once again. Without it, the competition with the Russian drone army is not possible. Right, there is the article published by Bloomberg where they say that NATO is preparing for the possibility of facing Russia with far less help from the United States of America as Washington pulls back troops and focuses on Asia. What a surprise! Here on this channel I'm saying about it for a very long time that Europe should take its own security very seriously. Before, the policy is just an assumption to rely on the United States of America that they potentially might deploy their forces to protect Europe, but we understand that with the current White House administration, it will not happen. So Europe should start once again or restart its military production. And we see the huge investments also in German army, French military, they're also concerned, and Macron even announced the volunteer service for everyone into the French army. Well, it's interesting, but definitely there could be a confrontation between Russia and NATO countries in Europe, because Russia is damn serious. And then I see the Russian military budget. I may understand that maybe it's not just focused on Ukraine, because the number is just outstanding. 164 or 65 billion dollars for a single year. That's the huge investment. Way more than it was this year, so maybe Russia plans to expand its military capabilities the next year. A large war game in Romania showed European forces led by France practicing defense largely on their own, revealing serious weaknesses in logistics, air defense, intelligence, and long-range strike capabilities that still depend heavily on the United States of America. By the way, a couple of days ago, Poland activated its Patriot air defense because Russia launched their fighter jets kind of close to the NATO airspace, but didn't penetrate this time. Yeah, Russians flown MiG-31 equipped with Kinjal hypersonic missiles, but as we know already, that missile is not that precise. So I definitely think that there could be some of the confrontation around Baltics in the coming maybe 2, maximum 3 years, even with the Ukrainian war in the hot phase. I think Russia, after all, it might risk using the part of its military to attack, for example, Suwalki corridor. Oh my god, El Pari wrote the article, the United States is no longer a partner for Europe, but rather a potential adversary or even a threat. Oh, Jesus Christ. With Donny, everything is possible. Well, I'm sure that the United States will not support Russia with military, yeah, at least like that. But yeah, this is a very big name for the United States nowadays. Yeah, Europe is overly dependent on the United States in military, technological, and economic spheres, limiting its strategic autonomy. To change the situation, the EU has two options: gradually reduce dependence on the United States and significantly invest in its own defense technology and regulatory capacity. It is for now not possible. Well, it is possible in long-term perspective, several years, maybe a decade, maybe more, but the threat from Russia, it is today. That's why Europe really needs Ukraine. That's why Ukrainian military support should be increased several times, by several times at least. The outlet notes that Washington's new peace plan for Ukraine has only intensified the existing problem. Yes, I also think like that. Right, now a couple of words about negotiations. There was, I guess, Kushner, Witkov and Rubio presented, talking with the Ukrainian delegation. The talks were ongoing, I think, in Miami. Yes, Miami, Florida. So Ukrainian delegation may speak forever with the American delegation, but all of that, guys, is mainly useless because Putin is not willing to stop this war, and Putin said about it multiple of the times. So Ukraine might sign all of the papers with all of the points. It doesn't matter what is written there, that Ukraine gives up all of the territories, including Moon, Mars, and the United States of America together with Alaska. Putin will not stop. Okay, so it is already evident. So those are basically for nothing. And Witkov on the meeting was looking kind of the visually fatigued because maybe because of the scandal he's sleeping not that well. Well, Witkov was calm. Rubio mostly was speaking. He says that the main goal is also to keep Ukraine as the sovereign country and to develop it later on after the war is over. But the war is not going to be over until Russia has the resources to make it happen. Yeah, army men, military production, and all of that Russia may obtain from its allies, and also not so allies, because after all, Europe supports Russia more than Ukraine. Yes, it's like that. Europe spends more money for Russian fossil fuels and other products than for Ukrainian military support. So it means that this war is kind of strange. As for me, I don't know why it is happening like that, but Europe should finally freaking wake up. Otherwise, they'll have to fight with Russia directly pretty much soon. And Donny will not help with that, absolutely. Maybe with some of the Patriot missiles, the same as what they do for Ukraine. We'll continue to sell our weapons. Why should we help our allies if there is a big, beautiful ocean between us? Yeah, something like that. He'll try to find out the excuse. And about the territorial concessions from Ukrainian side, well, Ukrainian soldiers see Trump plan as capitulation, even as they dream of peace. And nobody will make concessions on the territories because it's our land and we stand here. So Ukrainian soldiers, this agency NBC News, they spoke with the Ukrainian officers, and the officers say that even if they obtain the order to withdraw the forces from Donbass, they will not comments to it, so they will stay there defending Ukraine. It is understandable. It's not that Zelensky is not willing to give up Donbass to Russia. Zelensky doesn't want to sign agreement. No, It's been supported by Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian army that Ukraine should not capitulate the most defended positions, which are in Donbass. It's evident, I guess, for everyone except Vitkov, except Donald Trump and Putin. Putin is still delusional, but Putin at least saying that they want war to continue. He is saying about it openly. He's just not been heard by Donald Trump and Vitkov. They live in their own personal bubble, thinking that Russia wants to stop this war. Also, the Wall Street Journal says that the real motivation behind the peace deal is to reestablish connections between the United States and Russia. Business as usual, nothing personal. The Wall Street Journal alleged that the real motivation behind Trump's eagerness to force Ukraine into an ugly surrender is the idea that a lot of people close to him can make a lot of money doing business and deals in Russia. So for Putin, Ukraine is just an obstacle, and if Ukraine is surrendered to Russia, it's kind of the good outcome, helps Trump to get more money for him and his family. Also, the several legacy media sources wrote that the United States will increase the pressure on Zelensky personally. They will also take into account the recent corruption scandal. I hope that Zelensky is not directly involved in that, I just hope, but investigation is still ongoing. Also, I heard that rumors that Naboo belongs to United States of America, that Naboo is used by USA to pressure Ukraine, to cause Ukraine to surrender. No, guys, those are just conspiracy theories. Actually, Ukrainians are very happy that we have Naboo, that they uncover internal corruption schemes, and it's better to uncover them. Yes, it's kind of the bad time for Ukraine, but what is better, to uncover those corrupt schemes, make changes, as happened recently. Even Yermak was dismissed, which is outstanding. It's great. People are happy about it. Or to let those corrupt schemes to continue and pretend that nothing is happening, then de facto Ukrainian soldiers suffer because of that particular corruption. So yes, it is a good thing that this syndicate was uncovered. Absolutely great job by Naboo. Yes, not the best timing, and still with those prompt actions, with some of the reforms and Yermak again, I think Zelensky may get even positive points for himself personally, if he is not involved in corruption. We'll see where this investigation might lead, but it is already evident that Naboo is not making anything up. Those are the real corrupt cases, which should be investigated and prosecuted, of course. And according to the latest information, hopefully it's correct, Vitkov is flying to Moscow tomorrow, so the meeting could be also tomorrow with Putin, or the day after tomorrow. After all, it's a jet lag, and Vitkov needs to shave, judging on the picture I saw. Nothing good I expect from that meeting, guys, and we'll see where it goes. My prediction that the war will still continue for a few years. It's a long process, and Putin is goal-oriented to reach his goals of the special military operation. We'll see. For now, he is not winning. His army is not moving that fast as he wants to move. Well, anyways, my friends, please support me on Patreon if you can, or on membership. The link for my Patreon page is in the video description right below, and for membership you may just press the join button somewhere over here. Because of your support, I'm capable to film videos every day, and thank you so much for making this content possible. If you don't have that opportunity to support me on Patreon or membership, just press like to this video and subscribe for the channel to propel the video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much, guys, for that as well. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.